Morning. I'm Margie O'Driscoll, and on behalf of the Center for Innovation's Board of Directors, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. We'd like to take a moment to express our gratitude to the many sponsors who make our work possible. We wouldn't be here without your support. Thank you so much. I'm going to show a few quick slides before we begin our conversation today to provide a little context about how we got to this particular moment, since today's webinar is a bit of a departure for the Center for Innovation. Today, I'll be chatting with 4 of 10 Ukrainian leaders who recently attended a study trip here to the San Francisco Bay Area. This trip was supported by many individual donors and grants from the Trimble Foundation and Grace Farms Foundation. We received significant support from the U.S. State Department, particularly the Office of Global Partnerships. We are so grateful for their support. In this webinar, we will describe how the Center for Innovation and Dobrobat created what we called a community of practice, bringing together 10 Ukrainian leaders, most of whom had never met before, to the San Francisco Bay Area for 10 days last month. Our partner in this project is Dobrobat, a Ukrainian-based non-governmental agency which provides emergency reconstruction help to Ukrainians who have lost a roof or windows due to Russian shelling. Formed just 2 years ago, they have over 50,000 volunteers. They are widely considered to be one of the most important groups in Ukraine on the ground, helping lead Ukrainian reconstruction. As CFI began our conversations with Ukrainians, we tried to understand the way in which that country currently builds buildings and analyzed what materials and processes might be implemented in Ukrainian reconstruction. Dobrobat and their volunteers provided us with deep insights that furthered our understanding of their building processes. At the Center for Innovation, we were focused on using the best practices from our community of innovators to share practices based on what we understood the existing conditions to be, to try and create better working conditions for both workers and users of all buildings. The study trip included the founder and director of Dobrobat, a builder, a member of parliament, a leader from the Ukrainian Association of Architects, a leader from UNESCO, city and university officials, and NGO leaders. During the study trip, we spent 10 intense days seeing and learning what we call advanced means and methods of construction. Here's just a sampling of the many organizations, educational institutions, and companies we visited. It was a lot. At CFI, we were guided by the knowledge we couldn't hope to understand all the complexities of rebuilding Ukraine, because really, only Ukrainians know the best way to solve their country's many challenges. But we had a hunch we could show them some new and innovative ways to build and design, and they would create their own strategies with this information. I want to begin today's talk with this map of Ukraine. For those of you who may not have visited this amazingly beautiful country, this map indicates where fighting is currently taking place. For context, Ukraine is very large, about 1.5 times the size of the state of California. Today, you will hear from people from Kharkiv on the Russian border to the east, as well as people from Kyiv, the capital city in the heart of the country. The war has had a staggering impact on the people of Ukraine. Nearly 1.5 million homes have been damaged or destroyed during the war, and direct damage to buildings and infrastructure is estimated to have reached $135 billion. The total number of Ukrainian and Russian troops killed or wounded since the war began is over 500,000, according to the New York Times. Over 30,000 Ukrainian civilians have been killed. According to the United Nations, over 10 million people have been displaced or are seeking refuge abroad. Ukraine has a population of just over 34 million people right now. This is a steep decline from 2020, when the population was almost 44 million. Many in Ukraine fear that some of those who have fled due to the war will never return. Over 3,800 schools in Ukraine have been damaged or completely destroyed. This is a photo of Irpin University, a school of public finance in Irpin, close to Kyiv. The gentleman you see in the foreground is the president of the university, wondering how he will bring his students back. He attended the study trip. The scale of the devastation has been immense. And while some rebuilding is happening, it will take enormous resources to reconstruct this nation. And one thing that every architect and builder knows is that good planning can make all the difference in creating better projects. Once the war ends, Ukrainians will want to return home. And if they don't have homes, kindergartens for their kids, and jobs, they won't be able to return. Courageous leaders in Ukraine have been tasked by President Zelensky to not only repair critical infrastructure damage to the war, but also begin this peacetime reconstruction planning. CFI believes that the reconstruction of Ukraine must be led by the people of this nation, and it is our American opportunity to share the best of design, technology, and construction with Ukrainians. As CFI board leader Zig Gribel reminded us, Innovation in Ukraine will support efforts around the globe to respond to technically challenging questions, such as repurposing material waste from war, directly benefiting the industry when we plan to rebuild after demolition or other natural disasters. It is horrifying to say, but the war in Ukraine is not the only place in the world today where our hearts bleed over war. Estimates of the reconstruction costs are enormous, making this opportunity for large-scale innovation in Ukraine in the design and construction industry since World War II. Many countries around the world will face the challenge of mobilizing to build hundreds of thousands of housing units, and the world will learn a great deal from Ukrainian reconstruction. I would now like to say to our audience, we will invite you to put any questions you might have for the panelists who are going to be joining us now. Put your questions in the chat box. And now for the event you've been waiting for. I'm going to ask each of our Ukrainian leaders to introduce themselves by telling us their names and what their day job is. And I'm going to start with Andrei.
Thank you very much, Margie. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being with us. My name is Andrei. I was born and raised in Kiev. My main occupation is in construction industry. I have about 16 years of experience here, various roles from design engineer currently to the marketing director of Hilti Ukraine. Hilti is a multinational corporation that develops, manufactures, and markets the products for the construction industry, mainly to the professional and end user. So, and Hilti, we started to help Dobrobat since the very beginning of the war. Dobrobat was created about for the second month of since the war, the full-scale war started, and we as Hilti started to help them within that time. And me personally, I think after a few weeks, became also a volunteer for this organization. And after a couple of weeks, I was responsible already for international cooperation in the construction industry within the Dobrobat. That's what I also do now. So with that, I pass on the word to the next one.
Anna, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Margie. Hello, everyone. I'm Anna Kiri. I'm an architect, first of all, and I'm an entrepreneur and owner of architectural projecting group based in Kiev. I was born in Kiev. This is my native city, the capital of Ukraine. And also I'm a vice chair of National Union of Architects of Ukraine, so I have an honor to represent architectural Ukrainian community. And I think my third role is the head of charitable foundation of Ukrainian Architectural Chamber. This is a project we started 2 years ago when the huge war was started, and our foundation tried to help our military, our army. Last month we collect about 5 million hryvnia and send it to charitable organization to buy the drones for our Ukrainian military, our army. So we try not only to build, but we try to fight, because this is the first aim, to survive and to win this war. What can I add? I can just say thanks to all United States people, American people for supporting us, because I think we can be stronger together. And about my maybe professional role before the huge war, of course, personally, me and my company was dealing with the important project. We tried to develop Ukraine. We created the projects which can develop Ukraine and say the new words in Ukrainian contemporary architecture. But today, the biggest our project is how to create shelter, how to build the shelter for people, for schools, for kindergarten, for housing, and many of our projects dedicated to safety, to how to make more safety spaces for our Ukrainian community. Of course, my big dream is how to create a good project, how to develop our Ukrainian architecture, how to make our architecture and project which can be like a heritage in future. But today reality is we should learn how to build the shelters for our people. So I'm ready to ask you questions. Thank you, Margie. Thank you.
Anna, would you mind sharing how your family is also engaged in the war? Would you mind sharing that?
My husband, he is in the military forces now. In normal life, he is a photographer and artist, but in today life, he is serving in military forces Ukrainian, and I have two children, adult children. 21 is my older one, and 18 is my younger one. So, of course, they are students. The older studying film production, and the younger study philosophy. But of course, I understand if we will have a long time war, so my sons should go to military forces and serve and fight for Ukrainian freedom. I absolutely understand that this is our reality. So we stay in Ukraine, we don't go abroad, we're ready to fight for freedom and for our country and for democracy values, of course.
Thank you. Darina, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you very much, Margie. And first of all, I would like also to to join all the gratitudes on our behalf for all the people and for all the companies who was involved in the organization of this trip and supported us and continue to support us. So my name is Darina Nedzelska. I'm a culture specialist in the UNESCO desk in Ukraine. I have also almost 12 years of experience in the field of cultural heritage protection, in particular World Heritage. I worked in the World Heritage side in the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine. And now I'm part of the team of the UNESCO desk in Ukraine, which was open when the war started, when the full-scale war started in 2022. In order to have this possibility to react more faster and to help Ukrainian cultural specialists and institutions on field, because I am dealing mostly, so because we have different directions of assistance and of support of Ukraine within UNESCO's mandate. It includes the field of education, science, media, and culture. And culture, of course, it's like intangible heritage, and as well as tangible and creative industries, support of cultural specialists, of creative people, of professionals in this field. So I'm dealing mostly with the projects to support cultural heritage, and this we have here different also activities. On one side, these are activity on emergency repair and assistance and conservation work. On the other side, the roles of UNESCO is to enhance capacities and skills in the field of planning and conservation and risk preparedness, and on the other side in the field of developing and enhancing skills of professionals in the cultural field. So we have a lot of activities and plans, and I'm also looking forward to your questions and to cooperate together.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Costa?
Yes. Hi to everybody. My name is Konstantin Demenkov, and also, first of all, thank you for this opportunity to be here with you, to speak, to have a floor here with you. Thank you so much. I born and raised in Kharkiv. This is the second largest city in Ukraine, with one of the most closest position, location geographically to the Russian border. It's approximately 15 miles from the city to the border with Russia, and it's a bit rough about that. And I'm working for the Kharkiv City Hall for already more than 10 years. My main responsibility is international cooperation, so I'm responsible for finding new partners, finding new ways of the cooperation with the different spheres of the city life, and before the war and now. So I'm continuing doing what I'm did, but when we do that before the full-scale invasion, this was more about some big, huge, and large project. And unfortunately, now we have to deal with the both situation. So we are now thinking about the future development of the city, how to plan it, how to put it all on site. And we are dealing with a huge and tremendous devastating ruinations in every sphere of the city life. This is a residential buildings, educational sphere, hospitals, and infrastructural, critical infrastructural, power infrastructural. Yeah, and I don't know, special vehicles, equipment for the maintenance for the city, tractors and something like that, because a lot of them was destroyed, and buses and trams and trolley buses. And taking into account that this is still in Kharkiv, we have 1.3 million people inside the city currently. It's a huge actually amount of people. We need to find our ways how to provide appropriate services for them. Yeah, so we're all concentrated on how to do that. And that's sometimes it's difficult, to find enough time and enough people resources to deal with all that. And also, in accordance that for the Kharkiv, especially for Kharkiv, the situation of the safety and security is one of the important now tasks, because that we have really close border with Russia, and the time of the missiles from the launch till the hit is like 40 seconds. So the security issue is the first priority for us, for the city council, for authority bodies in the region. Because of that, we are not in the position when we can study children in the schools only with the proper bomb shelters, in even radioactive bomb shelters. So we have a special decision of our defense council on that. And all other also difficulties are also concerning about that. So I'm fully open to answer on your questions. We are fully open for any kinds of, any ways of preparation, because I just give you some brief numbers. For example, we have in different scale destroyed or damaged more than 8,000 buildings in the city. The very approximate estimation of our losses is already more than 10 billion US dollars. So you can just imagine by these two figures how it's really awful and a huge disaster only for one city. And when we will just think about the whole country, this is even harder. Thank you.
I just want to add a certain exclamation point to your introduction, Kosta, because prior to coming on the study trip, we asked all of the participants, and there are six others who are not on this call today, to sign an agreement saying that they weren't going to do their day job while they were here. So that was the agreement, is that they were really going to take advantage of this amazing group of leaders that we had assembled here in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and really be in it. And in the middle of the trip, Costa came to me and said, you know, Marge, I know I signed that agreement with you, but I can't do that today. And I said, oh, I understand, but what's going on? And he said, 60 people were killed in my city today by Russian shelling in the middle of the trip. So here he is having to balance his day job with the mayor and with the city council and planning for emergency support for those for the families, for the individuals, while he was on this study trip. And I have to tell you, to me, it was just an incredible measure of the resilience of all of the people who were part of our trip, and just almost unimaginable in the safety and security that we might feel here in the Bay Area on a daily basis or throughout the United States, to just be holding all of that information and all of that responsibility at the same time. So I think I'll never forget that moment when you came to me and said that, because I wanted to cry at just what that must have been like for you. So let me ask you first the question, so when you came to the Bay Area, what did you see that inspired you, that seemed like something that made you think, wow, this could really work as we're thinking about rebuilding our city of Kharkiv?
It's not something one in particular. Actually, this is something in general. Yeah, the impression was that we should really rely on your experience, how to deal with the projects, how to work with the projects, how to work with the communities, how to work with the people, how to work with the parliament members. So this is like the comprehensive thing, especially in particular, there was it was so amazing things to in the technology sphere when we have a presentation of the Trimble technologies, and I know that Andrei also have this in his company in Healthy. This is technologies of the future where we should implement with the reconstruction. The ways how you work with the NGOs, I mean, how the government working with the NGOs in terms of the Presidio example also was pretty much amazed, because this unique, I mean, people thing, when the people deciding how to deal with all that without any governmental, hand on that, that is a pretty amazing thing to me personally. And of course, I was amazed about the project of the hospital. That was like, in the way how they work in the project, how they design all that, how they implement all new technologies and the ways of designing it, and the budget of the building also was pretty much impressive. I mean, yeah, because it is hard to imagine in our country such expensive hospital, but still, I understand the full the peculiarity of this California, San Francisco. So for me personally, this was a comprehensive effect of all these things that we actually should to try or to do actually by, I don't know, to combine all it and to try to put it in our country on different ways, on different levels, on the city levels, on the NGO levels, on the levels of the private company, and of course on the levels all on the level of the parliament. And I think this is the important way of the thinking, how we should maybe change a bit our way of thinking and all this. So yeah, in general, that.
So let me just flesh this out for the people on the call. The hospital project he's talking about is the University of California, San Francisco is building at Parnassus Heights, which is on the side of a sort of mountain in the middle of San Francisco. So it's a highly complicated site in a very built up neighborhood on the side of a mountain. So that's the physical part of it. It's also one of the most advanced research institutes in the world. So that makes it complicated. And the thing, one of the many things that I think that Ukrainian participants got to see was this idea of what we call a big room, which is where all of the architects, the engineers, the owners, everyone's working together in one big room. So people are really encouraged to walk from their desk to another desk to solve a problem as opposed to send an email. And so it actually speeds the process quite a bit. There's also some really amazing architects who are involved in that project as well. So it was, I think it seemed fairly fantastic, but it's a highly complicated project. Just to underscore that. So, Darina, what about you? What did you see that you thought might help you in your work, especially around preservation of culture and monuments and historic buildings?
Thank you, Margie. First, I would like to add some words about why we introduced culture in this context, in this trip, and dealing with reconstruction and recovery of Ukraine. UNESCO is involved in the process of rapid damage and needs assessment, which is conducted by World Bank together with the European Union and Ukrainian government, and UNESCO in particular is responsible for the chapter of cultural heritage, tourism, and according to the second cycle of this RDNA, $7 billion are needed to the reconstruction and recovery in the field of culture. So it's really huge numbers, and it's very important to integrate culture and cultural heritage and creative industries in all the national reconstruction and recovery programs. And while like implementing activities in Ukraine, we are dealing with that not only particular assistance in restoration and repairing of cultural sites or documenting the damaged monuments and historical sites is needed, but it is needed to give this capacity and to enhance skills in strategic planning, in to help local people to enhance their regulation systems, to provide for future how this process will be planned in future and how the culture will be secured in this. That is why it was very important for me and useful to see the experience of San Francisco Bay Area in this field, especially as Kostya already mentioned, how the planning of the project, development of the project is done here. For example, the experience of ICOM company and managing this big infrastructure project is very important, because in any case, such projects, it have to, in Ukraine, it should integrate also culture and management of cultural heritage in historic, for example, cities and towns. And how it is also based on the principles of assessment of impact of environmental impact. It was also very interesting to learn about the community involvement and all these people-centered approaches to cooperate with local communities in also in the field of adaptive reuse of heritage, as we saw this example in Presidio Park, for example, and other examples. I would like to learn more. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time because so many things and so important meetings. But when we were in Filoli, it was interesting to hear about this National Trust for Historic Preservation, and I would like to learn more about this, because I think that this is also a very good example of involvement of communities, local communities, in the protection of their heritage. I liked also very much this example of Alcatraz also that we visited on our free day, because it was interesting to see how the different periods of the story of this place, like it was military fort, prison, it was when the indigenous people came to this land, how it is reflected and preserved in storytelling of this space. And I think it's also what we should think about after the war end, because we have so many layers of history and now a new pages are added with these terrible events, but still it's our history, the meanings, our identity, and we should think how we would like to tell these stories, and also through cultural heritage. So I could tell, I could tell much more things, but I think this is in general, of course, so many impressions and interesting experience that we had during this trip.
Well, I
Thank you.
think that the idea of preserving culture and memory was really quite central to the heart of the conversation. We here in the United States throw around this idea of culture war. But to me, when I started to really deeply understand what the idea of a culture war when another country is trying to absorb your own culture is an entirely different thing than arguing
Yes.
over Facebook. And I think that this was a really huge moment for me when I sort of understood that, and we really tried to reshape the trip to think about culture and people as being sort of the center of the trip. So it's all of you as
Absolutely.
individuals, but also how can we show you how we do sometimes well, sometimes not well, make people the center of the way that we think about designing buildings and restoring memory for people of things that may not be visibly there, but are really important stories for everyone to understand about our individual histories of neighborhoods, cities, countries in the world. So
you know, and I remember about one picture that I saw from the period when the cities like Irpin, Bucha, near Kiev were under occupation. And there was a photo in the media of a flat, of a private house, where on the wall Russian soldiers wrote that my home, your home is my home. Like, you know, they are treating that this is like their home, and this is like their culture, their land, and they would just like to erase us from here, our identity, and it's terrible. That is what is their mind, how it's working, of just usual people from this country who came here.
Anna, how about you? What did you see? What did you think when you were here?
Okay, maybe I will start from continuation Darina's thoughts about cultural heritage. I love very much how cities in San Francisco can preserve your heritage. And it is not only about house or buildings, but it's also about, I don't know, public transport, because we can see very old-fashioned buses on your streets and repairing with big love, I think, and passion. And on the same streets, we can see very modern taxi without drivers at the same time. So, you know, I think this is a big difference between Ukrainian and United States. For example, my office is situated in the center of Kiev, so I can go out from the office after my work and walk in our streets in Kiev, and okay, 10 minutes walk, I can see St. Sophia Cathedral in Kiev, 11th century, and Golden Gate, 10th century. So, and walking down the street, I can see the buildings 19th century, 18th century. And I think Ukrainians got used to this heritage and our heritage are in a not very good condition, because we have a lot of, and I think we cannot realize that the important values of this heritage. And for instance, in the United States and San Francisco, I see how American people love their heritage in even in very small details. So we can learn it from you, how to love your heritage and how to preserve it. And maybe I will tell you, I think, three important things. My lessons learned from San Francisco. The first is in the United States, you think as a holistic system. For example, many stakeholders involved in projects, and all stakeholders work as one holistic systems. As Kostya mentioned, healthcare center, as a city, as one holistic system. And this is very, very important, because in Ukraine, of course, we know about building information technologies. Of course, we use this instrument, but for example, the architects can use BIM technologies, but when you go to our clients, they absolutely don't understand how to deal with it. Or if you go to a construction plot and give the BIM model to subconstructor or general constructor, they cannot deal with this BIM modeling. So, of course, we know these instruments, but in America, it works as a holistic systems, but in Ukraine, it works like a fragment. So, and this is a small example, but we have very fragmented project business, architectural business, and construction business in Ukraine, and it doesn't work as a holistic system, and we should learn in the United States how to deal with it. The second one, my reflection or thoughts about, or conclusion about study trip, connected with Americans concentrated on future. It is very, very important. It is about build back better versus build forward. So United States say build forward, Europeans says build back better. And your feeling and your abilities to think future, it is very important for us, and I want to take it with me and bring it to our Ukrainian business, architectural business, construction business, how to think category of futures. It's very, very important. Of course, every our project we try to create to 100 years future, but but no one's really seen in Ukraine in such category of future, but in the United States you do it. And the third one, I think that American people are superhero in project management. Because how you can think slow and act fast, we should study it, we should learn it. How to make you absolutely, you are very good in creating the whole plan in a different situation, in different cases, and it is very, very important because in Ukraine we try to act fast and think fast, and because we live in very lack of sources. Of course, we try to do best we can, and sorry, but I will compare this in our situation in military forces. So our army with have very lack of sources, and they try to do the best they can. And in Ukrainian architectural business, in our construction system, I think we are working in the same condition. We try to do best we can in a situation with very lack of sources. But in this situation, I think we, of course, need to plan more carefully, and think about future. So this is the most important thing and reflection from United States I bring to Ukraine. And once again, thank you very, very much for all people due to whom this study trip can be a true and part of my life. Thank you.
Thanks. Andrea, how about you?
Same question, I guess.
Yeah.
I would start with that I was in a little bit different position, because since I'm responsible for international cooperation within the construction industry in Dobrobat, we started these cooperations with the CFI about a year ago. And we had a series of, let's say, activities, an important event in Kiev when we invited CFI to come to Kiev, when we had a huge event dedicated to the discussion of what construction industry needs, what rebuild, restart, recovery process may look like now and in the future. And with that, CFI heard by themselves, being here in Ukraine, how do we discuss it? What actually pain points do we have, and all other stuff. So it was not only the event that was broadcasted within the 2 languages and 400 people in the audience. It was also a series of quite important meetings with the various stakeholders of the industry. And after that, the idea of bringing the group of community of practice, group of like-minded people to bear began to realization, to the implementation. So and since I was a part of this process, I was slightly, or maybe more slightly, aware of what's being planned. We were in a constant discussions with Margie, planning all that. Of course, I was mostly responsible for gathering the group of people from Ukrainian side, the right people. But I was also aware about what we're gonna have and what should be the best options. That's what we actually managed to do. However, I was really impressed, and with that, I would like to express the deepest gratitude and only kind words for CFI and for everyone who helped to make this happen, because I was impressed both professionally and personally. I would start with professionally. So we have already touched several topics, such as UCSF hospitals, with an example of VDC construction, every stakeholders in the same place under one table. I was really impressed. I had a conversation there with a lady, and she was responsible for interior finishing. And now it's a groundwork. It's 2023 groundwork. The hospital's delivery time finish should be 2030 or 2029. And she's saying, I'm from interior finishing. Saying, what are you doing here? It's interior finishing. And she's saying, I was here even last year. So this is just to echo on what have been already discussed with my colleagues, that for us, it's a really, really unusual thing, but we definitely saw a benefit. Being in Stanford, discovering the VDC, understanding how it's really implementing. So both from the professional point of view with the partners and with the huge and very important presentations that we saw, it impressed me a lot. So it was much above the expectations that I had before. And personally, well, it basically goes to the approach and the mentality and the differences we can observe. So build forward. Yeah, this is definitely a vision that we took from the trip, and this is definitely something that you have, and you U.S. citizens might not even recognize it because you just there and you look at it as a usual thing, but you have it, and this is a really great thing, and it comes from the people-centric approach on everything you do in terms of the construction, at least what we saw. Yeah, you put people on the first, you understand the needs, you think slow, you think deep, and only after that you make the decision. I was also personally impressed by the let's say volunteering philanthropic part of the meeting we had. So now I would say that more than half of Ukrainians are volunteers, as I am, or in a different way. But it happened with us after the tragic moment and after the really tough situation. Before the full-scale invasion, we have to be honest, it was not like that. Volunteering and philanthropy was there, but not at the same level. And you have it like from generation to generation. You have it from the decades. We saw it in the Presidio. We saw it within the other examples in Stanford as well. So this is something that also goes through the mentality and all this stuff. And the last thing I would like to mention here about personal impressions, I was impressed with how actually people reacted on us. So yeah, I had an information from Margie that, okay, we're managing this meeting and everyone says they're ready to meet you, they're ready to find the time. Well, that's okay. We're really happy about it. But in fact, once we saw this level of support, this level of emotions, starting from, I don't know, the big people like Nancy Pelosi, like Ambassador McFaul, but just the people just who came to our public event, just who came after the event to express their words of support so what I usually say here, every action, every step, and every word counts. We really feel it. We are in a difficult situation, and I was a little bit afraid that after the 2 years of war, we are tired. You are tired. This is something that happened on the other side of the Atlantic. So I was, let's say, a little bit afraid of seeing a different story, and I was really happy to see the real passion and the real emotions of support within the whole trip that we had.
I just want to amplify that, Andrei. As we were putting together the itinerary for the trip, I worked with the board of directors of the Center for Innovation to try and figure out where we wanted to go and what we wanted to do and the logistics. And every single person that I asked to speak not only said, yes, when do you want me, but what more can I do? And so I think that, I hope that you all felt that in that moment, because everybody who was a part of speaking, volunteering, or supporting the many public events that you all did really said, what more can I, how much more can we do? Because there is such personal support for each of you as individuals and for your country as a whole. So the other thing that I want to say that is interesting to me is that the Center for Innovation took on this idea of creating this community of practice. And so it was an idea that we would bring people from different sectors of the reconstruction effort, now that is currently happening in Ukraine, but the future large-scale renovation which needs to happen. And so we had a member of parliament, we had people from different cities, people with different skills all together who didn't even know each other when they all came together. So for many of them, they were first meeting at the airport when they flew from Warsaw here. They might have been on a couple of Zoom calls with us beforehand, but they didn't really know each other. And so I have to say that to me, to watch the forging of the friendships and the connections between all of you gave me certainty that the reconstruction process is going to be looked at in a more holistic way than it might have beforehand, because there are so many more voices who all know and trust and have had this shared experience. So I just want to say that for me, that was a really important part of the trip, was watching you all connect with each other, because we were a bunch of Zoom avatars, leading up to the trip, but we actually became real life people who, had real life families and shared our own stories throughout all this. So I just want to really say that to me, that was a pretty amazing outcome. Usually when people think of study trips, they think of everybody from one sector, a group of architects, a group of builders, but we said, no, it takes a bigger community than just one particular discipline. So I want to stop talking for a second and ask all of you what, being that you all spent this time together, what do you think the next steps are in conjunction with Dobrobat, and how are you going to take what you learned back into your individual practices and into a collective rethinking of reconstruction? And I'll start with you, Andre, and then let others jump in. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, and of course, it's very important for us to realize that it's not just a fairy tale. We've been in for 10 or 12 days. We need to take something and bring back and create this reality in our country. And you can imagine that in the situation where we are, in a level of differences we have from various angles, it's not that easy. We already had a series of meetings identifying what actually we should start with. In fact, we started to do that reflection even when we were all together there in San Francisco. So we had a reflection session in between of these 10 days to focus on the exact, let's say, steps we can do. At this moment, we have identified three streams, three separate streams. However, they have some overlap where they can benefit from each other that we would like to start from. If you want me, I can elaborate it a little bit more in the details. Yeah? Sure. So one of the case is the reconstruction of European University. Luckily, we had the head of this university there, and unfortunately, about 70% of this university capacities were destroyed. So if we at least trying to find positive here with this tragic situation, with this very dramatic situation, is that we can build it literally almost from the scratch. So that means that we can afford ourselves to be a little bit more, we can use a different approach here. So we decided that what we heard, what we saw, what we find out, we can implement there using this example. Another stream we chose is VDC in construction. We were really impressed by the level of usage and collaborations we saw not only in Stanford, CFI lectures from Professor Martin Fisher, but also after we came to the hospital when we saw partially the implementation of these approaches. And we decided that we need to have it because our engineering mind, as our IT in Ukraine, is kind of profound. And as we already spoke it, we use BIM technologies. We use various profound approaches there, but it's just only one piece. We need to close it. We need to use the full circle here. So this is the second way we agreed with the support of Stanford University and CFI that we will set up the first group for the VDC certifications in order to multiply this approach in the construction industry of Ukraine. And the third one is actually the trade schools that you have. You call it trade schools in US. We also created something, and Dobrobat is a very big organization now. It has about 50,000 volunteers. What we also think about is how to social entrepreneur those volunteers. So we do the volunteer schools as a trade schools in the construction, and we also use that schools to do the transition for the entrepreneurship, to do the transition for the professional builders. And we saw some examples within the trade schools of US, how you do it on a different level. And we had this insight that we need to scale it up and we need to make it more profound. And since we have this offer to use an experience, to use the knowledge, to use maybe some part of the curriculum, we definitely grab it. So it is some process that's already in place, and we would like just to bring it on a next level.
I think that's really amazing. I think the other thing that I'll say is that the group continues to meet every 2 weeks. So we are all continuing the conversation going forward. So this wasn't, I'm sure that at least some bosses out there thought, oh, you're just going to have this wonderful vacation in San Francisco. They had no idea how hard everyone was going to be working while they were here. But also that we're continuing this conversation and continuing to do the work to support these efforts, both from a US perspective as well as from a Ukrainian perspective. So I think these are very impressive outcomes and goals, which Dobrobat and the study trip participants are leaning into. I think there's some other work happening that people are taking to their individual communities. And so maybe I'll talk to you, Anna, about things that you've already undertaken since you've been back home.
I think we can really become a community of practice. I saw this our first step, and I'm very glad that we can do it. These 3 projects which Andrei mentioned, and I think our lacking of sources, it's not only obstacles. I think it is a great challenge and a great opportunity. And using your expertise and your passion and your supporting and the desire to help us and to being in touch every 2 weeks, I think we can improve and continue this project and create a good result. And this, I think, not only hard part of result, but this is soft part of our result. It is very important. We started not only these 3 projects, we communicate in other cases with member of our group and member of your group. I mean, Bay Area and CFI team, and I'm very glad, and I think we can build forward, and not only build forward, we can project forward because my responsibility is how to create projects, how to create projects with challenge and with good results. So I hope and I will try to do my best to project forward with this amazing team.
That's great. Darina, any last words from you?
Yes, thank you, Margie. Besides all what we already mentioned, I see also a lot of perspective and cooperation between our community of practice in a big project. For example, now in February, the Italian government announced for intention to support Odessa city within a big 3-year project aimed to the strengthening the urban resilience of the city and fostering an integrated approach to recovery and urban regeneration through culture. And this project also gives a lot of opportunities to cooperate in the field of raising awareness of households and civil society, how to intervene on historical buildings. And I think it's also an important field of discussion together with such NGOs as Dobrobat, who are helping people whose houses were damaged to restore them. And we have such cases when it is like a historic buildings damaged within a city, in the cities following the attacks of the Russian Federation. And it's important also to give people more, provide them help and assistance and develop skills how to intervene and respect the values of these buildings, that they are like they're in proper ownership, private ownership. Also, it's very important to involve artists and creators in the vision, in developing the vision and improving the quality of the urban spaces in the cities. And of course, in the situation of the lack of professionals, especially also in the field of cultural heritage protection, the issue of education, of implementing new education programs and trainings is also crucial in terms of preparing the architects, restorers, conservators. So I think these also are fields of that we can cooperate together and involve different parties of our group.
Thanks. Okay. Costa, last word from you.
Yeah, I won't take you so long because my really good friends already mentioned so many things that this is difficult, to find something new what we are not discussing, because we are discussing it, as you mentioned, during in our meetings. I will completely join to all previous speakers about all what they are saying. Also, I would add something that we already working really closely with Darina on our cultural and heritage buildings. And this work is important for us. Unfortunately, sometimes when you are here inside the city and have this all not really pretty good things inside, you are begin to forget about the importance of all this culture, heritage, to preserve it, to stay. You are more concentrated, on the more usual and more simple issues to just to save your life and just to find some proper things. And this is actually really bad thing to forget about that. And we are now trying to work in that direction. Personally, for my side, I have a lot of different meetings when I come back from the trip with different heads of different departments. I shared experience, I shared the ideas with them and all that. They was really impressed about all this. We are now in the process of obtaining an idea how to implement and how to find some resources of some technical perspective, what I saw on the trip, how to in the process of the rebuilding, of course. And I completely agreed with the Andre, which you mentioned about the importance of the university, which we're planning establish on the European basis. Also, of course, it's now difficult to bring such courses or such seminars in Kharkiv. I mean offline, because Kharkiv is still don't have any opportunity to study offline, but we have also destroyed universities inside the city, and the huge ones. The whole buildings also collapsed. So, actually, ideas. I have a lot of ideas, but I have some ideas which are already we are trying to implement and trying to find the ways how to implement. And some ideas are still need to wait the proper time for the implementation, unfortunately, due to the safety reasons and other. So in that, I think I will just thank you one more time for this really, I don't know how to say, the trip was really awesome, actually. Yeah, it was in the ways of knowledge, in the ways of feeling, in the ways of the communicating with the people. It was warm-hearted, and thank you so much for organizing all that for the CFI. I know that it was a hell of the job for you. I know for sure that was really difficult to organize. Thank you to Dobrobat. They are collecting us from different parts of the country. They are united us and accompanying us and support us and all that. So thank you, everybody.
That's the most beautiful ending we could have ever asked for, Costa. So I want to thank our Ukrainian guests today. Never have I met such resilient and wonderful people as all of you. First from the trip that CFI took to Kyiv last summer, and it was our honor and joy to really host you here in San Francisco and show you just a little bit of the warm heart to warm heart and knowledge that we think will be useful to all of you. We did have some fun. I just want everyone to know, not only were we working people 12 hours a day, but we had some amazing events, including a terrific event that we did in conjunction with the United States State Department. So that was really wonderful. We did events at Filoli and lots of other wonderful places, because this group of people not only were learning while they were here, but they were also being essentially public ambassadors for the work and the challenge of reconstruction by doing a number of public events. And you were all magnificent at that. So thank you again for that. Thank you to all of the donors who made all this possible to bring this group of people here. We're really working hard now on following up with the projects that Andrei talked about, and then supporting other individual efforts of people from the trip. So I just want our audience to know that. Our deepest gratitude again to all of our donors, to our board of directors. And there were a couple of offers of assistance in the Q&A, and I will follow excuse me, I'll follow up with all of you individually. But in the meantime, please, from the San Francisco Bay Area in the United States, please stay safe wherever you are. And we look forward to peace soon for all of you. So thank you. Thank you again for your time.